Thanksgiving always carried a strange heaviness for me. While other families gathered to celebrate gratitude, laughter, and abundance, I often felt like I was walking into a war zone dressed in fragile armor. My husband, Daniel, had always assured me that his family would grow to love me. But after 5 years of marriage, I still felt like an outsider. And at the heart of it was his mother, Eleanor. Eleanor was the kind of woman who thrived on appearances. She kept her house pristine, her garden flourishing, and her reputation polished like silver. She expected perfection from her children, and Daniel, being the eldest, carried the heaviest burden. He had gone to the best schools, secured a stable job, and married a respectable woman, her words, not mine. But respectability, I soon realized, was only conditional. And in Eleanor's eyes, I had failed one critical test, giving her grandchildren. Daniel and I had been trying for years. We went through doctor's appointments, tests, endless conversations with specialists. Month after month of disappointment had worn me down, until the weight of my empty arms began to feel like a permanent scar. And yet, no one outside our marriage knew the details. We had decided to keep it private. Daniel said his family would only use it against me. I didn't want to believe him, but deep down, I knew he was right. That Thanksgiving, Eleanor hosted her grand feast as usual. Her dining room table stretched long and imposing, decorated with golden candles and polished china. I had baked an apple pie, hoping to contribute, though I knew Eleanor would sniff at it and claim hers was better. Still, I carried it inside with a polite smile. "Darling," she said, greeting Daniel with open arms before giving me a quick kiss on the cheek. Her eyes flicked to my pie. "Oh. How thoughtful. We'll just put it next to mine, though everyone knows tradition requires my recipe." I swallowed the sting and forced another smile. Of course. The house soon filled with relatives, Daniel's younger sister Margaret with her 2 toddlers clinging to her legs, his cousins, an uncle or 2. The air buzzed with chatter, the kind that made me feel like background noise. I moved through the motions, passing plates, pouring wine, complimenting dishes. But beneath the surface, I braced myself. Eleanor never missed a chance to needle me, and I could sense something was coming. It happened midway through dinner. The turkey had been carved, plates filled, conversations warmed by wine and nostalgia. Margaret's kids had smeared cranberry sauce across their cheeks, and laughter echoed around the table. I almost let myself relax, until Eleanor's voice cut through the air. "You know," she began, her fork clinking against her wine glass for emphasis, "I've been reflecting on family this year. How grateful I am for the blessings of children and grandchildren." A chorus of agreement rose from the table. She smiled sweetly, then tilted her head toward me. "Of course, not everyone is so blessed. Some of us are, Barren." The word struck like a slap. My fork froze midair. The table fell silent, all eyes turning toward me. Heat crawled up my neck, and I felt my stomach knot. For a moment, I thought I might faint. Did she really just say that? Did she just strip me bare in front of everyone? Daniel stiffened beside me. "Mom," he said sharply. But Eleanor just waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, don't be so sensitive, Daniel. I'm only stating the truth. It's a shame, really, but one must accept reality. Some women just aren't meant to carry on the family line." The silence deepened, thick and suffocating. My chest ached, my vision blurred. I wanted to disappear, crawl under the table, escape the cruel eyes watching me squirm. But then something inside me hardened. For years, I had bitten my tongue, endured her barbs in silence. But not tonight. Not when she dared to humiliate me in front of the entire family. I reached for my purse on the chair behind me. My fingers trembled, but my resolve was steady. I pulled out a slim envelope I had tucked inside days ago, my most recent medical reports. I hadn't planned on showing them. But Eleanor had cornered me, and I wouldn't let her poison the truth any longer. "Actually, Eleanor," I said, my voice low but firm, "you're wrong." The room held its breath as I opened the envelope and laid the papers flat on the table. I pushed them toward her, my hand steady now. The doctors ran every test imaginable. My body is healthy. Perfectly capable of carrying a child. Eleanor blinked, her smug expression faltering. I took a deep breath, the next words cutting sharper than I intended. The problem isn't me. It's Daniel. He's the one who can't have children. A gasp rippled through the room. Daniel's fork clattered to the plate, his face paling. Eleanor's mouth opened and closed like a fish, speechless for once. Around us, relatives shifted uncomfortably, unsure whether to look at me, Daniel, or anywhere else. I had dropped a bomb. And the explosion was only beginning. The silence that followed my words was deafening. Forks hovered in midair, wine glasses frozen just short of lips. Even the children seemed to sense the tension, their chatter dying into confused whispers. I could feel every eye at the table drilling into me, half in shock, half in anticipation of what would come next. Daniel's jaw tightened, his knuckles white around the edge of his chair. He looked at me, betrayal flickering in his eyes, but beneath it was something else, fear. Eleanor, meanwhile, sat rigid, her face draining of color before flushing crimson. "You dare," she hissed finally, her voice trembling with outrage. "You dare humiliate my son like this? At my table? In front of our family?" I met her gaze, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "I didn't humiliate him. You did, Eleanor. You called me Barren in front of everyone, without even knowing the truth. I stayed silent for years, but you forced me to speak tonight." Gasps and murmurs spread like wildfire. Margaret, Daniel's sister, looked torn between her loyalty to her brother and the sting of their mother's cruelty. Daniel himself sat in stunned silence, his eyes darting from me to his mother, as though unable to process the unraveling of secrets. Eleanor slammed her napkin onto the table, her hands trembling. "This is preposterous. Lies. You're trying to shift the blame because you can't give him children." I calmly pushed the reports closer to her. "Read them. Signed by 3 specialists. Do you think I forged them? Do you think I want this pain, Eleanor? Do you think I haven't cried myself to sleep countless nights because of it?" My voice cracked, but I didn't waver. The truth hung heavy between us, undeniable. For once, Eleanor had no immediate retort. Margaret broke the silence, her voice soft but firm. "Mother, enough. You've gone too far. I've watched you belittle her for years, and I stayed quiet because I didn't want to upset you. But this? You humiliated her. You humiliated your own son too. Don't you see what you're doing?" Eleanor turned sharply to her daughter, eyes blazing. "You will not take her side against me." But Margaret didn't back down. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand gently. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I should have defended you long ago." Daniel finally spoke, his voice raw. "Mom, stop." Eleanor snapped toward him, stunned. You're letting her say this? You're letting her destroy your dignity?" Daniel's face was pale, but his voice grew steadier. "It's not her fault. It's mine. I'm the reason we don't have kids. Not her." He looked at me, guilt and sorrow swimming in his eyes. "I wanted to protect my pride. That's why I asked you to stay quiet. But his eyes flicked toward his mother, she gave you no choice tonight." The table erupted in whispers again. Some looked sympathetic, others awkwardly stared at their plates. No one dared touch the food anymore. Eleanor pressed her hand to her chest, as if the revelation had physically struck her. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "Not my son. Not Daniel. This is unthinkable." Her denial only fueled my anger. Why is it unthinkable? Because men can't be blamed? Because you built your entire identity around perfection and legacy? You've tortured me for years, Eleanor, and for what? So you can cling to a fantasy that your son and your family are flawless? Tears burned at the corners of my eyes, but I let them fall freely. For once, I wasn't ashamed of my pain. I wanted her to see it, to feel the cost of her cruelty. Daniel reached for my hand, his grip firm but trembling. "She's right, Mom. I should have told you. I should have told everyone. I couldn't face disappointing you. But in the process, I let you destroy my wife. That ends tonight." The weight of his words settled over the room. For the first time, Daniel stood between me and his mother, not to silence me, but to shield me. Eleanor's lips trembled, her composure cracking. All these years. I blamed her. I thought, she shook her head, tears threatening to spill. I just wanted a grandchild. Was that so wrong? Yes, when it turns into cruelty, I said softly. Wanting isn't wrong. But tearing someone apart for what they cannot control, that's unforgivable. Her eyes darted toward Margaret, then Daniel, then back to me. She looked small suddenly, diminished. The powerful matriarch who once ruled her table with an iron grip now seemed like a frightened woman cornered by truth. But the damage was already done. Thanksgiving was ruined, the warmth and festivity replaced with bitter silence. Plates of turkey sat untouched, candles flickered uselessly against the chill that had settled in the room. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor. I think we should go. Daniel rose immediately, nodding. Margaret looked like she wanted to follow, but the weight of her children and obligations kept her rooted. She mouthed, "I'll call you later." Eleanor didn't move, didn't speak, just sat frozen at the head of her grand table, her empire crumbling around her. Daniel and I gathered our things in silence. As we stepped out into the cold November night, the air felt sharp but freeing. I could breathe again, even if my chest still ached. Daniel finally broke the silence as we walked to the car. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have told her myself. I should have defended you years ago." I looked at him, the mixture of guilt and relief on his face. My heart softened despite everything. "I know you were scared. But tonight, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed her to know." He nodded, eyes glistening. "And she knows now." The drive home was quiet, heavy with exhaustion but laced with a strange sense of liberation. For the first time, the truth was no longer locked inside us. For the first time, Eleanor's weapon had been shattered. Yet as I stared out the window at the blur of city lights, a question gnawed at me: would the truth heal us, or had I just burned the last bridge with his family forever? The days after Thanksgiving felt eerily quiet. No phone calls from Eleanor, no passive-aggressive texts, not even a family gossip chain. It was as if a curtain had fallen, cutting us off from the chaos we had lived in for so long. Daniel carried the weight of guilt heavily. I could see it in the way he lingered by the window at night, his hands shoved deep into his pockets, his jaw clenched as though bracing for a storm. "I ruined everything," he said one evening. "She'll never forgive me. And you'll never forgive me either." I touched his hand gently. "Daniel, you didn't ruin anything. Hiding the truth nearly ruined us. But now we can finally breathe. If your mother can't accept reality, that's her burden, not ours." He looked at me, his eyes searching mine, and for the first time in years, I felt his wall crumbling. He pulled me close, holding on like he was afraid to let go. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived in our mailbox. My stomach twisted when I saw Eleanor's handwriting on the envelope. I almost tore it in half, but Daniel insisted we read it together. Inside was a single sheet of paper, her words surprisingly shaky. "Daniel, and to you as well," she had written. "I don't know how to begin apologizing for the cruelty I've shown. I thought I was protecting the family legacy, but instead I destroyed my own children with my pride. I see that now. Whether or not you forgive me, I will spend the rest of my life trying to be better. If grandchildren never come, I must learn to be grateful for the family I already have. I hope, one day, you'll let me prove it." I stared at the letter for a long moment, unsure what to feel. Relief? Anger? Closure? Perhaps all of them at once. Daniel exhaled slowly, folding the letter back into the envelope. "Do you believe her?" I thought about Thanksgiving night. The venom in her voice, the way she had broken me down for years. Then I thought of the cracks I'd seen in her eyes when the truth was revealed. "I believe she's human," I said finally. "And humans can change. But forgiveness, that will take time." Daniel nodded, slipping his arm around me. "Then we'll take our time. Together." For the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope. Not the hope of children or the life Eleanor had envisioned, but the hope of healing, of building a life defined not by what we lacked, but by the love we shared. And as winter settled in outside our window, I realized something: Eleanor's cruel words had once branded me barren. But in facing her, in speaking the truth, I had finally discovered the opposite. I wasn't barren at all, I was stronger, braver, and more alive than I had ever been.